You are listening to the Yoga for Balance podcast. I'm your host, Heather Gjerde. Thank you for listening. This week on the podcast, I speak with Zarah Martin, who's been studying holistic healing therapies for over 12 years. She's been certified in reflexology, Reiki, massage therapy, as well as getting a bachelor's of science in alternative medicine. She's also went on to study craniosacral therapy as well as hypnosis, and applies all of these in her experiences she provides in treating the whole person, mind, body, and spirit. We dive into so many different things in this conversation. I think you're really going to enjoy it, and I really appreciate you being here and listening. Let's start out by just taking a couple of deep breaths together to ground in. Take a nice deep breath in, fill your lungs all the way up. And let out a big open mouth sigh. And let's just do one more like that. Breathe in, take the deepest breath yet you've taken today. And then open your mouth to just let it go. Thank you for listening and enjoy this conversation with Zarah. Hello and welcome to the Yoga for Balance podcast. Welcome back. This is our second episode back after a little bit of a break. Missed you guys and missed having these really amazing conversations. And yes, they've just been happening here in beautiful San Diego, which led me to my friend Zarah Martin here, who is here to chat with you about meditation, chakras, and much more. So welcome, Zarah, to the show.
Thanks, Heather, so much. It's so great to be here.
Well, why don't we introduce you to the crowd that doesn't know you? Can you share a little bit about you and what your experience of meditation and yoga has been that's brought you here to today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I practice yoga, but I'm not a yoga teacher. I teach meditation classes. I got introduced to meditation through Reiki. So I was teaching Reiki classes. I've been practicing Reiki for over 11 years. And I have always been interested in what's outside the physical body. I just actually recently in the past few years got really interested in the anatomy and physiology of how the body works, but I've always been interested in the spiritual side of life. So Reiki was kind of my first introduction into that and kind of led me through the chakra system and working with those energy centers and working with energy that I've always felt my whole life and kind of always understood from an intuitive level, but Reiki kind of solidified what it actually meant and how to utilize it. So I really connected with the chakra system when I learned Reiki. And when I was teaching the Reiki classes, I loved it, but always felt like there was something more that I wanted to do. So Andrea Judith was really like my kind of guide through that. And she's a great author of a lot of different chakra books. Journeying Through the Chakras, I think, is a great book. And she is kind of utilizes the science of the way the chakras work in the body, and then also utilizes the spiritual side of where the chakras are and how they connect to the emotional, psychological, physical parts of the body. So I was like, I feel like I need to be spreading this knowledge. So I just started teaching meditation classes. I was like, I need to create this. And I just started creating these classes. And I was just doing it out of places that I was practicing massage therapy and Reiki and reflexology and other practices that I work with. And people seem to really like it. So I was like, I want to take this a little bit further. And I think I should get certified in hypnosis because I feel like with hypnosis, you can access the subconscious mind and really heal the patterns of our life that kind of hold us back. So I got certified in hypnosis, and then it took my meditation classes even deeper. So I got certified about 5 years ago. And I've been teaching meditation classes ever since. I'm originally from Philadelphia area, Pennsylvania. So I was teaching meditation classes there and people really seemed to love them. And then I came out here and I started teaching out here. And yeah, so I've been teaching out here for the past year.
Wonderful. And so hypnosis. So what would you say is the biggest difference between when you would teach maybe just a regular meditation class to when then you started layering in the hypnosis aspect? And are you able to do that for a group as well as an individual?
Yeah, so with the original meditation classes I would teach a lot of breath techniques and kind of just work with the breath with the chakras. But with hypnosis, you can send someone into a deeper hypnotic state. So you kind of but you kind of push aside the conscious mind and then access their subconscious mind. So you put them into that deep relaxation. So I'll take them through a progressive relaxation technique, and that kind of relaxes their body. So, you're tensing up the muscles and relaxing them, and that kind of gives them access to what their body is, where it's at, and how they can relax it and what it feels like. Some people don't even know what it feels like to relax their body. So just by relaxing their body, that puts them into that kind of deeper theta brainwave. So it puts them into that state that's a little bit more relaxed than they would be on their everyday life. So the hypnosis helps to put them into that kind of theta brainwave. And then once we do that, then we kind of go deeper into the subconscious. So there's different techniques I use to relax the conscious mind, or like I was saying, kind of push it aside so you can access the subconscious. And then once they access the subconscious, it's kind of limitless where we can go. And then if we're working with a specific chakra, then we'll kind of go into techniques, or I'll give them different guides to access that chakra, whatever it might be. If it's the root chakra, more grounding, or if it's the solar plexus chakra, more ability to achieve the goals in their life that they need to. And definitely can be done in a group. Individual sessions would just be more accessing what that specific person needs. And then if I was teaching a group session, we would just kind of go with one chakra or go with a couple chakras and kind of work with those in the guided meditation.
Mm-hmm. And I know we've talked about the chakras in here before, but I love your perspective on the chakras for if it is something new to someone listening, or maybe they've heard it once or twice now, but what is your understanding of the chakras?
So the way that I understand the chakras is I always try to explain to people that you don't necessarily have to think of, because chakra means wheel of light, right? Vortex of light. So when people hear that, they're like, well, what does that mean? Or I don't see the colors on that person. So I say, just think of the way that the physical body is designed. If you think of the root chakra, you think of your roots, you think of your legs, your feet, what hold you up. So if you just focus on the lower pelvic area, the legs and the feet, you're already accessing your root chakra. So when I think of the root chakra, I try to explain to someone, you think of your connection to earth. What is your connection to earth? Your feet touching the earth. So that's a very simple way to think of the root chakra. What do you think of when you think of your heart, your chest? You think of you're giving love to someone. When someone says heartstrings, everyone's heard of heartstrings, or your heart connection. So that is a very simple way of thinking of the heart chakra. So even if you don't believe in that there's this energy center there, you know that your heart is your connection to other people. Your heart is your connection to your own love for yourself, universal love. So if you think of the parts of the body that way, or even your solar plexus chakra, it's working on your core. You're building up your core, and your core is your solar plexus. So if you have a strong core, you probably have a strong willpower. You probably have the ability to achieve goals in your life because you have that strong core. So if you think about it on a physical level, I think it gives people the ability to rationalize it. And if you can rationalize the chakras, I think it makes a lot more sense.
And we've talked a lot about this sort of physical manifestation or seeing the proof of things. So I guess, how has that manifested for you in these different practices and helped you to share some of the things that you've learned in a way that you think is really going to resonate with people? Or yeah.
So I think a really big experience for me, probably two really big experiences, but one was a block that I grew up in my throat chakra. And I remember when I first learned Reiki, I would wake up every morning, and this happened to me from the time I was a little kid. I wouldn't be able to speak in the morning for about an hour or two. Like, my voice was so raspy, or I had a sore throat every morning. And I didn't have tonsillitis, didn't have chronic issues, but I just couldn't speak. Like, words didn't come out. So I started working with the chakra system when I learned Reiki, and I would work on my throat chakra. I would do sound healing. So I would do a lot of oming, or I would do a lot of vibrations. And every morning I would do vibrations. I would send Reiki to my throat area. I would do different neck stretches. And I mean, it took about 3 years of practice, and I would meditate on the throat chakra, kind of figure out what it was that was blocking that area. And eventually I woke up and I could speak in the morning, and it was totally clear. And I was like, wow, there is totally something to this chakra healing, because now I'm not so much blockage in this area. It just released. And I think that I know that I have seen so many people go through these releases in their heart area, in their third eye area, in their root chakra. I've seen people that have had like severe pelvic pain for years, and then they work with the root chakra, the sacral chakra, and they do healing, and they do vibrational healing, and they do sound healing, and it might take a little bit longer, but those blockages release. And I think when I see something like that, that's the most profound understanding that I can have that the chakra system exists.
Mm-hmm. So someone listening, wondering if they may be imbalanced, I mean, I think, and I'd love your opinion, is it they do a meditation like one that you would lead, and that is going through the chakras, or you work with someone who is Reiki certified who can kind of help you identify, so that by getting more of an understanding, going through the practice, they can start to identify with themselves where they're imbalanced. Because like you said, you noticed at one point, this throat thing, this is bothering me, but at first we're not even aware. So the first goal is, okay, let's become aware of what these different centers are, where there may be, because I just led a chakra meditation today, and it was it's okay, here's this imagination that we're coming into more balance, but I think it's also more than anything the realization that at this point this is out of balance, and then here are the things I could do. So the more you understand about that chakra that's out of balance, that helps you to understand also what you can do to balance it out, correct?
Exactly. And like sometimes there's not always physical symptoms. So like you were saying, you're doing the chakra meditation, you're tuning into your body. So just, by watching your breath, simply by watching your breath, you become more in tune with your body. You become more in tune with the moment. And that's, we're always doing like 10,000 things at once, right? So when you just close your eyes and you watch your breath, just not changing it, but just watching it move in the body and out of the body, you start to notice subtleties of the body. And when you notice those subtleties, that's when you can truly learn the imbalances that are happening, because you might not even notice them. They might be happening on an auric level or an energetic level, and they haven't hit your physical body yet. And so just by quieting the mind and focusing on the breath, then you'll start to really learn about what's happening at energetic or cellular level.
Then you mentioned there was one other thing as well, that there were two. So when I had asked the last question.
Oh, yes.
What was the other thing you were going to say?
So I actually had shingles on my face when I was 16. And I definitely think when I was younger and doing things I shouldn't have been doing, I blocked my third eye chakra, or my third eye chakra was blocked and maybe opened up too much. And I got shingles right on my third eye. And it was probably, they said it was the most severe case of shingles they've ever seen. They treated it like 3rd degree burns. And I was out of school for a month, and I had scars for years. And now it's really interesting because since I've been working with Reiki and the chakras, it sounds crazy, but I utilize this shingles pain that I still get. I had it when I was 16, so that was like almost 15 years ago. I know when something is off energetically because I'll start to feel tingles right over my third eye. And it's crazy, and all my friends know this. So I'll text them or call them and be like, so I'm having shingles pain, just be careful, whatever you're doing. Or, I'm having shingles pain, just like be safe, just take care. And like, they're like, oh no, don't tell me that. But it's crazy. Like, and it's right over the third eye, and your third eye chakra is your intuitive chakra. It's the chakra that gives you the ability to read between the lines, to listen to the silence between the notes. It's the ability to see beyond the physical world. And it's like, that's like my little cue that my third eye or my pineal gland is saying, something's happening, be aware of it. So that's like my other little experience, which is crazy.
That is really crazy. Oh my God, you need to tell me next time you're feeling your shingles tingles. You have to. And we talked a little bit even about, before coming on this show, about astronomy. And it seems like that's something that really resonates with you as well. So I'd love you to share your experience of that and how you've seen that manifest and really impact you and those around you. And
astrology is huge. I have one of my best friends from back in Philly. She's an amazing astrologist. And I have a lot of other friends that do astrology, and they teach astrology classes. So it's definitely, for me, something that's more fun, but I think it's amazing because I have seen so many things happen based off of astrological aspects. So definitely, when you're ever looking up astrology, it's really great to look up someone's whole chart, because then you can really understand it. But you can always look up astrological aspects of what's happening currently. So I think we were just talking, Jupiter just went into Capricorn. So I was kind of talking about that Jupiter is very expansive. So it's like the lucky Sagittarian, traveling, kind of moving, just the very open energy of Sagittarius is Jupiter, because Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. So right now, on December 2nd, 2019, Jupiter just transitioned into restrictive Capricorn. So I was just saying that Jupiter, expansive Jupiter, is getting restricted a little bit. So that just basically means that we're going to be cutting ties with kind of what is not serving us, not serving our higher purpose. So you'll notice things getting cut out of your life, people moving out of your life. If it's not serving you on a higher purpose, if it's not serving you on your kind of what you're meant to do in this life, it's going to move out of your life. So that's just one aspect. And a lot of people I've talked to lately are kind of saying that, like they stopped talking to this person, or they moved out of this area, or they are no longer having this job, or they're moving their finances. It's kind of like you're organizing your life for a future time. That's kind of what's happening right now. You're kind of putting all the pieces in place because you know in the future you're going to need to have all those pieces in the right place. And kind of things that have happened in the past, just, I mean, so many things astrologically, it's hard to like narrow one thing down. But I just think astrology is definitely a huge part of looking at what's going on in your life.
What does a typical meditation class with you look like?
Yeah, so when I have my meditation classes, I like to kind of add in a lot of different techniques so that people can utilize those techniques at home. So it's not just breathing techniques, it's not just guided meditations. I like to, in the beginning, kind of talk about what chakra we're going to work with. Or sometimes I'll do paired chakras. Like, for example, this past week's class, I kind of asked a lot of my students, because they come regularly. So I was like, what do you guys want to work on? You know, what's like bothering you lately? And one person says they wanted to balance their emotions. And I'm like, okay, so let's work with that. So we worked with the sacral chakra and the heart chakra. So I kind of just talked about the sacral chakra. It's balancing your emotions, because the sacral chakra is all about the ability to move with fluidity through life. It's to dance with life. It's to move creatively, sexually, to be able to have that ability to not be stagnant, because the sacral chakra is the subconscious. It's the feminine. It's the fluid part of ourselves. It is the water aspect of us. It's the womb. It's where our life is born, within the sacral chakra. So if you are feeling stagnant or emotionally unbalanced, there's probably some stagnation or disharmony in the sacral area. So we kind of worked with that. And then the heart chakra is also your emotions, but the emotions on a more conscious level. So the sacral chakra is the subconscious. The heart chakra is the conscious giving of love or giving of emotions. So we went through that, kind of went a little bit more in depth in that. And then I teach some breath techniques. And then we go into some stretching. So stretches for the heart chakra would be yoga postures, different twists or bends in that area, just to kind of activate the area. And then we go over some more breath techniques, which I was kind of talking about earlier a little bit, watching the breath, giving the ability to kind of just focus on the way your breath is moving. I think that's really important with the meditation that I like to teach. As much as I also work with changing the breath, I think it's really important for people to just accept the way their breath moves and to watch that and to appreciate the uniqueness of the breath, because that breath works for you all day, every day. And I always tell students the most important thing is to appreciate the way your unique breath moves. And when you give attention to that, you're giving appreciation to that. It's like watching someone and listening to your best friend or your loved one tell you a story. When you look them in the eyes and you watch them, you're giving them gratitude, and that's what you should be doing with your breath. So I work a lot with that, having gratitude for that. And then we do some different breath techniques to kind of activate those areas. And then I go into a guided meditation for that. And that guided meditation is accessing, again, the subconscious mind and then kind of taking them on a journey. That's my favorite part, is to take the person on a subconscious journey. And I guide them, but then give them freedom to kind of move through where they need to move through in that space. And then I usually end with sound bowl healing, because I think the sound healing is really important too.
Yeah, let's talk about sound healing a little bit and how you've incorporated that and the results you've seen from incorporating that into your practices.
Yeah, so the sound bowl healing that I use is the Tibetan singing bowls. So they're the metal singing bowls. And I think the sound healing is amazing, just more of feeling it. Even when I'm utilizing the singing bowls for other people, you can, especially when you attune, like for the heart chakra, the F note, when you attune to the F note for the heart chakra, you can feel the heart just either expanding if it needs to or coming in if it needs to, whatever you need at that time. But those vibrations, I think it's fascinating on a quantum level that you can feel and connect with that in that area that you're playing at that time. I think it's fascinating.
And how can people experience, I mean, there's nowadays, I feel like there is a lot, so they can experience a sound bath in a public area or a private.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways to experience that at this point. Yes.
For sure. Even like YouTube videos or Spotify, iTunes, you can just put on the frequency that matches to that chakra or that balance that you need.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. And you were talking about a meditation technique, kaleidoscope meditation technique. Oh. Would you like to share? This is the first I've ever heard of that style of meditation, because I think some people, when they hear meditation, they think, oh, it's just sitting there, it's being silent, it's not thinking. But of course, as we know, there's many guided meditations. There's different ways of doing it. There's chakras, there's going through the koshas, there's visualization, everything. But what is this kaleidoscope meditation?
So I just recently got introduced to the kaleidoscope meditation. I'm really into manifestation. And I think it's fascinating when you can utilize manifestation techniques and they come to fruition. I've been fascinated about that since I learned about what's called quantum jumping by Burt Goldman. He's created this whole technique of quantum jumping, which is a whole different thing. But the kaleidoscope meditations, they have to do with basically Dr. Joe Dispenza. He is a chiropractor, and he creates the connection between science and spirituality, which I think is amazing, because it's giving proof that science and spirituality can come together as one, and proving these energy centers or proving this quantum field through quantum mechanics or quantum physics that these things are actually happening. And they're starting to prove them, which is amazing. So he created this kaleidoscope or mind movie meditation. So you can YouTube this, Kaleidoscope Meditations by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And what it is basically is they filmed inside of a kaleidoscope. So, you can look up different multicolored images on YouTube, but it's different because what they did was actually film inside of a kaleidoscope. So it's actually the oils and the glass that they're filming. So it's a direct image or video of what's happening inside of a kaleidoscope. And what he believes, or he's working with, is that this kaleidoscope, when you look into it, it kind of takes you into this multi-dimensional universe, or it takes you into pure awareness. It takes you out of where you are in your conscious mind and puts you directly into that. So when you practice kaleidoscope meditation, you can look this up on YouTube, you start to look into this kaleidoscope and you allow yourself to become pure awareness, or the way he puts it is you allow yourself to become no person, no place, no thing, which is pure awareness, right? Pure consciousness. And so when you look into this kaleidoscope and you become no person, no place, no thing, you kind of get engulfed in this expansive love energy is the best way I could describe it. And people can describe it and have described it in many different ways. It's whatever you're feeling. But the way I experience it is this just unlimited love that's flowing through the moment or many moments that pass. And you can do it for 5 minutes. They have 2 hours. But I like the 5-minute one because I know that I'm going to do it every day for 5 minutes. So it's perfect. And that's what's good for people, because you can just do it for 5 minutes. And if you want to do it for 2 hours, that's great too. But you can watch this kaleidoscope and you just become this pure awareness or this pure consciousness. And it kind of just puts you directly in the moment, but takes you out of everything that's happening. And I don't know exactly if it's the colors or the way it's moving, but it's this new technique that he is working with, and I think it's absolutely fascinating. And then the mind movie comes into play for manifestation, that once you become this pure awareness, no person, no place, no thing, then you create this mind movie for manifestation. And the way you do that is you can pay someone, they can create this mind movie for you. But I think a really simple way to do it is that you go on iMovie or whatever you have on your phone, and you put all the images that you want to manifest in your life. And it can be images of you or images of things that you want in your life. And you play your favorite song to it. And it should be a positive song because you're going to listen to it a lot. And you play your favorite song to it and you watch all these images. So once you've become no place, no thing, no person, then you watch these images, and he calls it mind programming, like TV programming. So you're reprogramming your mind once you've opened the space so that you can create what you want in your life, which I think is pretty powerful.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a vision board, but it's playing out
high
in
speed
front of your eyes. Wow. And so you would go through this kaleidoscope meditation for however long, and then you would watch
your
this
mind movie.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so then eyes are open for this one, because oftentimes in meditation your eyes are closed, so that does make this a little bit different in that sense.
Definitely.
But I'd imagine if you have this on your smart TV or something,
exactly,
it just becomes a really cool practice.
Yeah. And it like becomes a routine, because if you think about every day, you're flipping through Instagram, you're flipping through Facebook, or you're just flipping through Google, you're looking at all these images every day. So if you can just do this for 10 minutes a day, you're helping to reprogram your mind to be not only more positive, but also create things in your life that you want and open space for more things to come in.
Is there anything else that you would like people listening to know? Maybe someone that hasn't, this is yoga, so maybe a lot of people listening have found the physical asana practice of yoga, but they've been intimidated to go into the other realms of meditation, or even breath work might overwhelm them if it's something they haven't done, or slow down with the breath. They've only maybe been introduced to it in a yoga class. Is there anything you would like to share with those people to maybe encourage them to explore some of these other practices?
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like with combining a yoga practice with the breath, we were talking about it a little bit earlier, and I think the contracting of the muscles with the breath, I think is great, because I think that kind of utilizes both a yoga technique with a breath technique and kind of gets the simultaneous action of watching the breath, but also utilizing the body at the same time. So I think, what did you call it in yoga?
Bandhas.
Bandhas.
The bandhas. So Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, Jalandhara Bandha.
Yeah.
Yeah, muscle locks.
Muscle locks, yeah. So I think that's amazing, and I utilize that in the meditation techniques. So like if we're working with the root chakra, I'll have them contract their lower pelvic muscles, but then also breathing at the same time. So, and really practicing not changing their breath. So watching their breath while the muscles are contracted. And it sounds simple, but it's actually very difficult, because what do you want to do? You want to hold your breath. So if you can simultaneously allow the breath to quiet and just move naturally while also contracting the lower pelvic area or whatever muscle group you're working with, I think that's a great way to introduce someone that is practicing yoga, because they're still utilizing their muscular system while watching the breath. And then once you practice that, then you can kind of relax all of the muscles because you've contracted them, and the only thing they want to do next is relax, right? We don't want to keep our muscles contracted all the time. So once you've done that with each of the body centers or each of the chakras, then you can start to allow the breath to move in a natural rhythm. And I think that's a good start for people who have never practiced or kind of got intimidated by breath work or just getting in tune with the silence. I think that scares people sometimes because nothing is ever silent around us, right? Like we're always on our phones. We're always, like I said, doing something. So people are scared of that quietness. And so that kind of is a good introduction into utilizing the body and then coming back to the quietness of the breath.
And you talked also about the power of manifestation and how you really believe in that. And so I'd love you to talk more about that and how you've worked with people to really step into that and leverage the power of manifestation.
Yeah. So I had this really amazing yoga student back in Philadelphia, right outside Philadelphia. And he literally said that the meditation classes changed his life. So he's a doctor of organic chemistry, or a PhD of organic chemistry. Him and his wife are probably two of the smartest people I've ever met. And they were coming to my meditation class, and we were working through the chakra system. I really like to have classes where we do 8-class series. So we'll work with the root chakra, and then each week go through each of the chakras, and then end on the 8-week with all of the chakras. So he was working a lot with his throat and his third eye. And he was working at a job that he didn't like, didn't feel connected, didn't feel like it was part of his purpose. And he was coming to the 1 8-week session and then came to the second 8-week session. And he came up to me and he was like, these meditation classes literally changed my life. And I was like, well, what you're doing changed your life. I just kind of guided you, but what you did in your practice changed your life. And he quit his job and he started getting really into out-of-body experiences and working with the chakra system and working with his spiritual centers. And he found his self again. He kind of lost himself in his job and didn't feel centered. And he activated his throat chakra and he had the ability to quit his job. And he started working on himself in a spiritual way and in a healing way. And then after maybe about 6 months to a year, he finally found the job that he wanted, and he had the ability to speak up because he's more of a quiet person. So he had the ability to speak up, and he had the intuitive ability to see what direction he needed to go to in life. And I think that that's pretty profound, especially with someone that's so scientific minded, that they're able to understand that spirituality and that scientific or that science mind is able to come together as one. And I think his wife actually said to me, she's like, when you get so deep into science, spirituality and science are the same thing. And I was like, that's amazing, because I totally agree, but it's nice to hear it from someone that has the scientific understanding to say that.
And we talked about that a little bit, where kind of the science is meeting these spiritual practices. And I think up until recent years, there was a little hesitation from people, especially if they're coming from different religious backgrounds, to finding practices like this. But the more and more research that is coming out, and it is coming out, that shows the results of these things. And coming from a journalism background myself, I like to see results. I like to see facts. I think it's just been really fascinating to see those results coming through and to be able to pinpoint, like you said, this author and people doing really incredible things in the industry that, hey, there is proof to this pudding. Yes, we feel it. We find that immediate reaction. You did, I did. That's what drove us to develop down this path and share it with others. But to also see the results coming through the science is really powerful.
Exactly. And it's interesting that you said religious backgrounds too, because I've had Catholic nuns that I've done Reiki on and worked with chakra healing, and you can have any religious background you want, and I still think that you can work with healing the chakras because it can be on such a physical level or a psychological level or mental level, and it doesn't interfere with any religious belief. I think that you can have any religious belief and still work with meditation, and that's what's so amazing about it, is that it doesn't, or it isn't a belief system. It's a practice, and it's a practice that can heal you mind, body, and spirit.
What would you recommend for someone if they are listening, saying, I'm on board, let me start this? How would you recommend they get started?
So I would just say the best way to start any meditation practice is to find one time during the day that you can do it. So I actually love meditating at night. My favorite time to meditate is at night, and most people meditate during the day or in the morning, and that's their recommended time to meditate. And don't get me wrong, when I do wake up early enough to meditate, I do feel great, but I just know I'm not going to stick to it. And so some people, the great time for them to stick to is their lunch hour, because that's the only time they have time. So I always tell people, pick a time that you know that you're going to do it every day, and you know that you're going to do it around that time every day, because what's the most important thing about meditation is frequency, not duration. So you can meditate for 5-10 minutes a day, at night, your lunch hour, when you go to the bathroom, whatever you want, as long as you're doing it around the same time every day, or at least every other day. Every day is better. So that's the most important part, is frequency. You can meditate for an hour once a week. You're not going to get the same results as if you meditate the same time every day or around the same time. And when you meditate, or you begin to meditate, the best thing that I always tell people is just start by closing your eyes. You can focus on one thing, or you can look at one thing, and that's okay, but you'll probably get distracted. So it's easier to close your eyes. It just works a little bit faster, or it flows a little bit better. And just start by taking 3 deep breaths. So in through your nose, and I always say when you breathe in through your nose, just hold at the end of that breath. Just give your body a second to decompress, and then let that breath go out of the mouth. And then you breathe in through the nose, hold, let the breath go out of your mouth. And then one more time, breathe in through your nose, let the breath hold for just a second, and then let it go out of your mouth. So now you've kind of settled into the moment. And then once you've settled into the moment, just like I was talking about before, just start to watch the breath. And you just begin to see the subtleties of the breath. So watching the breath come into the body, you notice the body expand. Watching the breath leave the body, you notice the body retract. You might notice that there's more warm air coming in and more cool air coming out, or reverse, whatever's going on with your body. And just notice the breath. And the biggest thing I always tell people with meditation, never try to clear the mind. The moment you try to clear the mind fills with thoughts. So the best thing to do is just accept those thoughts. Accept the thoughts to come in, give gratitude, then come back to the breath. The more you practice meditation, the easier it is to do this, and the more distant the thoughts become. But as soon as you try to say, clear the mind, empty the mind, it's not going to empty. It's going to fill up with thoughts. So allow the thoughts to come in. The mind is meant to think. The emotions are meant to feel. The physical body is meant to have sensations. So just allow those things to happen, but don't get distracted by them, because what you want your focus to be is the breath. So allow them to happen like a passing cloud, or like a car in the distance moving by. Allow them to move in, give them gratitude, and then allow them to move out, and then come back to the breath. And just allow yourself to watch the breath as if you're watching the ocean's tide, moving in and moving out. And I always say to allow yourself to almost act as if you're watching the movie of your breath. So as if you're watching a movie, just watch the breath. Become aware of it moving in and out of the body. And you'll notice that within 5 minutes, it's gone, and then you can go about your day. And what's another great thing to do about meditation is set a timer. Because if you don't set a timer, you're gonna be like, when is this over? When's it gonna end? or you'll get lost in it and you'll forget what you're doing next, one or the other. So set a timer for 5 minutes, and then 2-3 weeks later, set a timer for 10 minutes. If all you can do is 10 minutes a day, you will have and see profound results in your life. If all you can do is 5 minutes a day, that's okay too. But if you can do an hour a day, I mean, your life will change. It will be fascinating. I'm not even doing an hour a day, and I teach meditation classes. But if you can do 10, 15 minutes a day, the same time every day with that practice, you will see results in your life.
I'm a morning meditator.
Yeah. See, that's
I find it easier for me, but exactly. Different people, different things.
Yep.
You have to find what works for you. Try it. Try one day morning, one day afternoon, one day night. See what works for you. But yeah, consistency is key.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have a 10-minute tip for everyone listening or anyone listening that might help them to find more balance?
I think the meditation practice that helps you find balance. I also think working with the root chakra is huge, and connecting to the core of the earth. I feel like that's how I find a lot of balance. And even in yoga, like tree pose, like any root chakra grounding meditations, I feel like that's a huge thing to find balance. I even find, like, when I tell people that they're in a stressful situation, just visualizing a cord coming down out of your root chakra and connecting you to the core of the earth. And you can visualize this with your eyes open. If you're in a stressful situation, just visualizing that cord moving down into the core of the earth. I think just visualizing that one center of light moving down into the earth really helps to balance you and bring you into the moment. So anything that can bring you into the present moment is going to balance you, because when we're not balanced, we're thinking about a million different things, or we're thinking, where should we be? Or we're not looking at our phone, or did we answer that text, or did we do the laundry, or did we, whatever you need to be doing. So when you find that central point, it kind of brings that balance into your life. So it's either practicing focusing on your breath, but I think the root chakra, finding that connection to the root chakra is huge. And like through tree pose, even just doing tree pose on both sides every morning or every night before you go to bed, I feel like that's huge, because you have to focus on standing on one leg, right? And that's really hard. It's not easy to stand on one leg. So if you're able to do that every day, even if you start with just holding up against a wall, but if you can get to the point where you're standing with one leg up and one leg flat on the ground, I feel like that's a huge way to find balance in your life. And I always, with the root chakra, do tree pose no matter what, because I think that's huge. And then finding that central cord, like really visualizing that central cord coming down, moving through the clay and the oceans and connecting to that core of the earth. And even if it's just a visualization, we have mirror neurons in our brain that doesn't know the difference between something happening or something that we imagined. So if you just are imagining that cord connecting you to the core of the, or that cord connecting you to the core of the earth, that's going to balance you. And I think almost instantaneously if you're able to really visualize it.
I love that. And you touched on this about what balance isn't. So what to you is balance? What does balance feel like to you, look like to you?
What does balance feel like to me? I think balance feels like being in the present moment. I think just, when you're with people, balance is looking them in the eyes, or when you're in balance, when you're walking, is just being aware. I think awareness is balance. When you're truly conscious and truly aware, I think that is balance, because you're able to be aware of things that are happening around you, and you're being able to be aware of your emotions, your thoughts, without allowing them to overtake who you are. So I think consciousness, awareness is balance. If you are stuck on a thought, or you're stuck on emotion, or you're stuck on a pain in your body, and when you have pain in your body, it's really easy to get stuck on because it takes over your whole life. So finding that awareness and that consciousness, for me, I think is balance.
Beautiful. Is there anything else you would like to add for anyone listening that we didn't get to touch on?
I think also just having gratitude is huge. Like having gratitude for one thing or many things every day is also life-changing.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Zarah, for being here. Really appreciated having you on the show, and thank you for sharing your wisdom with the world and for what you are doing to give back and share these practices that you've found to be profound, and you continue to learn and add on to what you're able to provide to people. So thank you so much for everything that you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me, Heather.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Yoga for Balance podcast. You can find all of the show notes at vintantra.com, vintantra.com, and do help us grow by going to wherever you listen and leaving a star review and rating while you're there. Until next time.